All right, welcome to another edition of Flagship Podcast, and I have a special guest with me here, Mikkal Hodge. Good to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
All right, so you are with Hodge Family Farms in Anderson.
Alexandria.
Yes. Okay. And you are one of our pitch finalists.
Yes.
And so our pitch is coming up on February 20th at 6 p.m. Would love to have everybody come and be a part of it. It's going to be a great event. We had 36 businesses apply for the pitch.
That is awesome.
And it was really tough to narrow down, and you made the top 7.
That's awesome.
So just excited to have you there and want to just let people get a chance to hear a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about the history of Hodge Family Farm.
So Hodge Family Farm originally started in 2018 when I convinced my parents to go together with my wife and I and purchase 13 acres of farm ground just north of Alexandria.
Okay.
So purchased it in 2018 and grew our first crops there, planted our first stuff there in 2019.
Okay.
So 2025 here, we're coming into our 6th growing season. We've really grown stuff there, and it's been been a learning experience. I knew how to grow plants and crops, but have learned the marketing side of it and the distribution side of it as we've gone along the last 6 years. And, right now stuff's looking like it's going to be a great year here in 2025. And, we'll see what the year holds. It's still early. There's still snow on the ground out here.
Sure. And now I've heard that you are pretty active with some farmers markets.
Oh, yes.
Tell me, are you in different cities on that?
Yeah. So in 2024, we attended, we had at least 6 farmers markets and then several special events throughout the year. So our main farmers markets that we for sure attend every week is, of course, Anderson's farmers market, the Alexandria farmers market, and then Yorktown and the Minnetrista farmers market over in Muncie.
Okay.
So those are our main 4. And then we also do the Fairmount Farmers Market, which is a once-a-month market up in Fairmount.
Yep.
We went to the Elwood Farmers Market a couple of times. They're kind of growing that farmers market. So if we can find somebody to work for us to go over there, because it's also Saturday mornings when Anderson and Minnetrista is.
Sure.
And then as far as special events go, we did the Gaslight Festival here in Anderson. So that's a big one for us. It was nice and sweltering hot this last year. And then we did several special races where we were a farmers market vendor over at the casino, the horse track here in Anderson. And then Alexandria has once a month on typically the first Saturday, sometimes the second Saturday, they have a throwback drive-in. And due to scheduling conflicts, we didn't go to too many of those, but went to the last one where we typically take some produce, but mainly like roasted corn. We do roasted corn with our fresh sweet corn there.
Okay. So how much of what you produce is sold at farmers markets versus other venues or if you work with the market?
So all of our stuff is either outside of pumpkins. Because pumpkins are sort of their own animal, but all the produce that we grow is either sold at the farmers markets or our self-service farm stand.
Okay, so they're all community events.
Every one of them.
Of what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah. There's the only thing wholesale that we do is with pumpkins.
Okay.
And that's just because we grow a lot of pumpkins. So we do a lot of retail pumpkins at our farm, and then we do probably half of our pumpkins are retail and half of them are wholesale.
Okay.
Yeah.
What inspired you to get into it?
Oh man, years ago my parents rented a house down in Acton, Indiana, so this very southeastern corner of Marion County.
Okay.
And the landlord had a garden that I helped him with. I was, I believe, 7 or 8 at the time.
Okay.
And helped him with his garden, and then him and I started having a competition about who could grow the earliest red tomato. So that was part of it for me. And then my grandfather on my dad's side, so he had a huge garden down south of Greensburg.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time down there. They canned a lot. I got memories of sitting in the basement snapping green beans growing up. And then from there, my grandparents on the other side, they were row crop farmers on my mother's side. So grew up around farming the whole time. But so I've always, since that 7 or 8 years old with the landlord, I've always loved growing things. But what's kind of probably set me on the course where we're at now is, as a teenager, I detasseled corn for Pioneer out of Rushville. And the contractor that I worked for, his name was Bruce Birch down there, and he owned a Flat Rock Apples and Stuff, I believe is what he called it.
Okay.
But a small apple orchard is about 5 acres. I think he had about 500, 600 apple trees there. So when after I detasseled for him, he's like, do you want to come work for me at the orchard? And I was like, sure. So picked apples, pruned apple trees. He also had some peaches. That's my first memory of going and seeing his place. Was I walk into his walk-in cooler and he had a good peach crop, and you smell all that fresh peaches, which are fantastic. So working for him in that apple orchard probably what set me on the course of wanting to own. I wanted to own an apple orchard. Of course, what I still want to own an apple orchard. It's just I want to have some of these other things that complement the apple orchard now.
Sure.
That we didn't, at that time as a 17, 18-year-old didn't really think about. So, went from there. Was told I was the youngest master gardener in Shelby County because we grew up in Shelby County.
Okay.
So I took the master gardener course when I was 18. So I was the youngest in the course by about 40 years. And of course, a lot of it, I was told by a lot of people that, can't make money in this and that. But
sure,
I'm stubborn. You can ask my wife that. So I just, kept being
and you had a peach eye.
Yeah, it's so I did that, and from there started going to school. Knew I wanted to get education in either agriculture or horticulture.
Okay.
And just to have the background of being able to grow things. So
sure.
It was going from there. Started here in Anderson with Ivy Tech.
Okay.
I had an agribusiness program, and this has been 20 years ago now. And so started here. So took a lot of classes here, up here in Anderson, and then they kind of moved their agribusiness program to either Richmond or Lafayette, which Lafayette makes sense with Purdue up there. But it was too far for me to drive, so ended up going to Vincennes and got an associate degree, and then went from there because at the time Vincennes and Purdue didn't have a good agreement with credit transfer. They do now, thankfully, for those students, but they didn't then. So I went to Southern Illinois over at Carbondale and got a bachelor's degree in fruit and vegetable production, got to work as a student worker with the fruit and vegetable researchers over there, and learned a ton of information from them. And then, of course, went on and to Iowa State and got a master's in agronomy. So everything I've done has been around, I know how to grow things.
Sure.
Very well. And so it was just when the opportunity came with this land, when it went up for sale, I was like, so Mom and Dad, what do you, because, I was, this was 6 years ago. So my wife and I, we had been married for 3 years at the time. And, we had no money, had been married for 3 years. And so went together with Mom and Dad, and they were the financial backers, or help at the time, and went through the process with the USDA and the FSA to get a beginning farmer's loan to buy the land and some equipment, and been learning and growing ever since then.
Now, speaking of growing, you're really good at growing your family too. You guys have 6.
We have six children,
all under 9.
All well,
9
and
now.
Under, 9 in a month now. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So 9, and so our oldest was born November 30th, and our youngest was born November 22nd. So there's essentially 9 years between the 6 of them.
And I'm assuming pretty actively involved in the family business.
Oh yes. They absolutely love, especially our oldest, Maverick. He absolutely loves going to the farm, and there's a lot of times he's more of a boss than I am to some of the people that we have work for us during the summer.
So now, do you live on the farm, or is it?
It is separate.
Close.
So
okay.
We live about 1.5 miles south of the farm.
Okay.
So if a lot of people know me if they drive through Alexandria. I grow giant pumpkins as a hobby.
Okay.
So, and our house, the back of our house is along State Road 9. So
okay,
people can see my pumpkin patch. And,
okay.
A lot of people know me because of that. And of course, now with the way our farm has grown, a lot of people know us with the farm.
Sure.
And they know our children too. My oldest daughter, it's going to annoy her one of these days. It's going to be like, oh, you own that farm? She's like, yeah, I do. But, it's part of it.
So are you full-time with the farm?
It seems like
or is that the goal?
Eventually, but
okay.
it's going to be quite a while. So
okay.
Another thing that I do, my full-time job is I am the farm project coordinator at Community Hospital here in Anderson.
Okay.
So that's a project of the hospital foundation, and which serves to we grow produce and it goes to the food pantries here.
Is that over at the Jetta Center?
Is that so? The Jetta Center is part of the farm.
I was there this morning.
Yeah,
at a
the Chamber of Commerce was
meeting.
there this morning.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So my office is in the Jetty Center there, but we grow all the produce we grow there goes back into the community.
Okay.
And of course, with the hospital, there's a partnership with Bloom, Madison County, which is the folks that run the farmers market here in town. So I see them all the time, and but they're great. So they do cooking classes and art classes that sort of tie back into learning about food, how to use food, and then I do classes about growing the produce, and then we grow all the produce. So we grew 27,000 pounds of produce at that farm that was harvested and went to the food pantries here in the county last year. So I like to joke with people and tell them that that's the job I get paid for. And then eventually, so we're going into our 6th year with the farm. Things are starting to get paid off. There's a lot of expenses to start a business.
Definitely.
So we're doing pretty well. Eventually, probably when my oldest son, he tells me he's going to take the farm from me one of these days. So when he takes it, I'll just work part-time there when I'm retired from the hospital and do that.
Eat your peaches.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So you decided to apply for the pitch.
Yes.
And tell us what it is that you're really hoping to do if you were to win that.
So what our hope with the pitch is that in the produce business, getting capital is very difficult. There's a lot of risk that goes with growing a crop and relying on it for income, because we're completely dependent on the weather.
Yep.
And a lot of financial institutions do not. It's just too much risk for them. So our hope with the pitch is that we can use that as a catalyst to do something that we want to do, but doing on our own is going to be in 5 years. Versus if we're able to do well at the pitch and win, or even get something. Yep. If anything, get exposure. We might be able to do these things. What we want to do is we want to do you pick strawberries and expand into the you pick apple realm of things, which we used to have you pick apple, or we used to have some apple orchards here in Madison County. Okay. And those are mostly gone just from people retiring, people getting out of it. And there's not, I mean, the whole farming industry is dealing with that. There's not a lot of the younger generation getting into farming, and there's multiple reasons for that. But we're in it, obviously, right now. And so we want to expand into those worlds. I take so many phone calls in June, late May and June, about if we have you pick strawberries. Because that's the time. June, most strawberries are June-bearing strawberries. So they're ready roughly in that time frame. And then apples, of course, growing up, I went to apple orchards. It's memories that you have. And we don't have a lot of that. There's a couple great orchards within some driving distance. We have Tuttle's down near Greenfield, and then Jacobs out north of Newcastle, which are both fantastic places. Jacobs has fantastic apple cider donuts. We were talking earlier. We always go out on fall break to Jacobs to get donuts, and then we go to 1,000 Degree Pizza for lunch. So that's kind of what we do that with the kids every year, and so they're great. But where we're at, in the northern part of the county, there's I mean, it's almost an hour drive to Jacobs.
Sure.
It's an hour drive to Tuttle's.
Sure.
And there's just really nothing else in that area, from up to Marion and then over to Tipton and Kokomo and then over to Muncie. There's just not a lot there as far as that type of offering.
Sure.
So our hope is with the pitch is that we can start into that opportunity.
Sure.
Plant some apple trees because we already have some apple trees, but they're not set up for you pick. They're set up for us to pick them.
Okay.
So plant some trees. We'd eventually like to have several hundred trees to plant or plant it out there for you pick purposes.
Sure.
And then I thought we'd start with like an acre, half to 1 acre of strawberries, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like an acre of strawberries is like 13,000 plants. So,
wow.
It's a significant amount of strawberries.
And is there a quick cycle on, like with being able to pick those? Would it be multiple times it's within a season or not?
So it's only one picking a season.
Okay.
So the strawberry season typically lasts about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because you plant some different varieties to spread your picking. Now, of course, like we talked about before, weather is completely dependent on that.
Sure.
So in 2024, it was very hot in June. So the strawberry season is normally 3 weeks, lasted about 11 days.
Okay.
Because the strawberries just ripen so fast.
Sure.
But if we planted strawberries, so say we ordered strawberries and planted them here in the fall of 25, we would have the first crop off of them next year.
Yeah.
Now apples is a different story with apples.
Sure.
So the apples, they wouldn't be planted until spring of 26. We have to custom order the apple trees.
Sure.
And then
they take of growth.
They take about 3 years to get to where they're producing a decent crop of apples.
Yep.
But, so for us, if we were to win the pitch, that would put us with strawberries next year.
Summer.
And then apples 3 years from now. Versus if we do it on our own, we're probably talking 5 years on strawberries and 8 years on.
Yeah. Sure.
So
sure.
That's the opportunity the pitch presents for us.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, you got me hungry. It's about lunchtime, and you got me thinking about peaches and
That's right.
and eating.
That's a great part of growing your own produce.
It's a part of life.
Yeah.
Eating is such a big piece of community and life, and I think also just connecting with nature. Also, it's a huge piece of that.
Once so many things that we do as people, whether it's getting together with friends or family, it revolves around a meal.
Sure.
And we like to think that we have the opportunity to give people at least something to make that meal just a little bit better.
Sure. Definitely. And so much of life is a process of growth too.
Yes.
And so that connection with it just, I think does something to the soul.
Yeah.
In a really good way.
Yeah. It's you go put your hands in the soil and put a plant in the ground and then harvest what that plant grows. And
you do that with a younger generation.
That's
with
right.
you.
It gives you a sense of connectivity to what you're doing. But it also, when you harvest that and you get to eat that, it gives you a sense of personal accomplishment.
Sure.
It's like, yes, I can do it.
Sure.
You don't have to rely everything you get from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Grocery stores are, vitally important to
Right.
our communities. But when you can grow something yourself, it just gives you a good sense of self-worth and ability.
Sure. Awesome. Well, Michael, I cannot wait for pitch night to hear your pitch, and it's going to be a great night. And thanks for taking a little bit of time to come in. Can you let people know where is it that we can find you?
So right now we just have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram. And
Hodge Family Farm?
Hodge Family Farm on both of them.
Okay.
And don't have a TikTok. Who knows what's going to go on with that in the next few days. So don't have that. And we are working on a website. So when we have a website, it will be linked through our Facebook page.
And do you have anything at the farm right now that people do come to, like with the pumpkins or anything?
Not right now.
Yet?
The farm is just cold and frozen right now.
Okay. So it would be the community events that people would see you in the summer and the spring with the farmers markets.
So initially. We do have some apples. And so we go to, my father goes to the Fort Wayne Farmers Market every Saturday with apples. And then I go typically to the once a month farmers market at Minnetrista. They have an indoor market. So during the winter, that's all we've really got going on. We'll open the farm back up typically mid to late April, because we get some hanging baskets and vegetable plants. We start some of our own vegetable plants to sell out there.
Okay.
So that's when, and of course, the majority of farmers markets start the first Saturday in May.
Yep.
So that's when our season really takes off.
Yep.
And people can see us anywhere, but they can always get in touch with us through our Facebook account.
Okay.
And send us a message, ask questions, whatever they need to do.
All right. Super. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And again, Hodge Family Farm, and encourage you to come out on February 20th to the pitch at 6 p.m. at Flagship and hear what Michael's doing and what everybody else is doing. It's going to be an exciting night in the community and in the county.
Community.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Flagship podcast, sponsored by Pinnacle Systems. Visit our YouTube channel for the full-length video podcast, or find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New podcasts are posted every month, featuring local leaders from Central Indiana. For more content, follow us on social media at Flagship Enterprise Center. Until next time, thanks for listening.